Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome back to another episode of Midnight Reality. I'm calling this my Big Fat Greek Soul Trap video. My Big Fat Greek Soul Trap video has nothing to do with Big Fat or Greek. I just stole it from the movie. I didn't think it deserved a real serious title. And quite frankly, I'm tired of hearing about the Soul Trap. Matt, does that mean you completely dismiss it? You're doing your subscribers a disservice. You're sweeping it under the rug. I knew you were really Joe Rogan. Look, a trick exists in this reality system, okay? Well, we see that, okay? That's the first thing you learn getting into this truth research community. Oh my goodness, there's a trick here, and it's about 1,000,000 times larger than we ever could have imagined. Could that trick extend into the green room or this nebulous zone between life and real death? And well, so what? Let me present my conclusion now, or at least my opinion on the matter up front, and then I'll support it with a long talk on the back end that'll probably stray into a lot of different areas and even include some bad jokes if anybody wants to stick around. But let's get right to the heart of the matter now. Let's start off with a very simple and basic inner knowing exercise. I want you to picture Bill Gates in your mind. Picture him riding up to your house in his tricycle and delivering milk to your front door. Do you see it? Now I want you to picture characters and minions of this reality like Santa Claus Schwab. Picture him in his Darth Vader outfit in a German cocktail party. Can you see it? Are you laughing? Now picture a minion like Larry Silverfish trying to scam somebody out of another real estate deal. Now picture a different type of minion like Alec Baldwin. Picture him on the set of Rust if you want a good laugh. All of these strange entities and not Nilk minions running around. And what are they all doing if you back up far enough and see each individual part like a cell in a body? If you back up far enough, it's all working together, isn't it? Even if the individual units aren't aware of what the other units are doing. There's cells in my body, say at the end of my thumb, that don't know what the big toe's doing. That's okay. If you back up far enough, it's all working together. And what are these minions doing? They're executing a trick. And who would be the focus of that trick? Entities like you and me. So who's more powerful? The little minions running around executing the trick, Hillary Clinton on the stand? What difference does it make? Who's more powerful? Little tricksters running around, or the entity who's the target of the trick would be more powerful because those executing the trick are trying to get something out of the entity that's the target of the trick? Is this first grade stuff, or is it just me? There you go, Matt. Same old delusion you and your homeless group of great unwashed bring forth every single time. Oh, you more powerful. The group you running down to try to make yourself feel better, they're the ones that control governments. They're the ones that scam people out of skyscrapers. They're the ones that have the parties in the Hollywood Hills that you want to get into. They're the ones that tell you when your driver's license need to be renewed. These are the people that are in power here, Matt. No matter how much you talk, that group rules this place. That's exactly right. They do. It's a big fish in a small pond. This is nothing compared to all there is and all that there will be. If you're positioning yourself and you're playing a trick on a more powerful being, and the being just kind of woke up and didn't know what it was or where it came from, and you would say this small pond here is the Pacific Ocean. And you would say, I'm Poseidon, god of this vast ocean. Part of the initial trick would be you control all the skyscrapers. You make all the laws. You make the sleeping powerful being believe that your small pond is the specific, not the Pacific Ocean, but the Pacific Ocean. It's a joke. They are in power here. That's in the scheme of all that there is and all there will be. Being in power here is like being in power over a puddle of spittle in a back alley of Bangladesh. I'm not running down the earth. It can be very beautiful, but to position yourself as in control here and to think that's something is an absolute joke. The tactics of the trickster are very rudimentary. It's to convince the masses, or at least the real spiritual beings, that this place is all there is. The rewards from this place are all that matters, and they would say, I'm in control of this place. Therefore, I'm going to direct the way you think, and I'm going to direct the way you act. And it's an absolute joke. Everything here is inverted too. It's an inverse. It's reversed. So if the people position themselves as kings and queens and presidents, that means spiritually they're the lowest. Everything here is inverted. Everything here is backwards. Okay, where does that leave us for now? What's the basic summary before we move on? The entity that's the target of the trick is more powerful. That entity is you and me. If we were just NPCs and the atheists were right, it wouldn't be targeting us. It wouldn't get anything out of us. It doesn't just want our manual labors to build another pipeline that it would like to one day take into Syria. It's a spiritual energy or chi or whatever you want to call it. It's an energy that we had with us before we incarnated here. It wouldn't be coming after us with such vigor if it was just about the body and it wanted us to build walls, or maybe the line, that ridiculous Saudi Arabian apartment complex that extends up into the Sinai Peninsula or whatever, goes to 140 degrees when the air conditioning breaks down. We're the target of it because we carry something beyond the physical. This is obvious. Something, a spiritual energy, or maybe like the strangers in Dark City, something they don't have. Okay, let's not stray too much. We were talking about the soul trap. And even the language used, see the spellcraft of English, that language that most of our community uses when talking about it, that helps to cement it in, if it can even be cemented in, which I don't think it can be, but using the is a cemented in language. Not well said, but I'm not going to re-record, and you know what I mean. The coming of winter. There's no avoiding it. It's coming. The use of the or the is very powerful. When you say the, it's a language that it's trying to cement it in to reality. Let's talk about the soul trap. The subconscious hears that and believes that that it's a real thing. Well, it may be a real thing, but it certainly depends on the power you give it. This whole reality doesn't exist without our type of entity. If the whole reality doesn't exist here, at least where we are now, without our type of entity and our type of consciousness, you think some little trick at death could exist or have merit on its own without you giving power to it? So I kind of take back what I said about a minute ago, saying even if it's real or it may be real, it can't be real if it needs you to give power to it or to facilitate it in some way or to believe in it. It's no different than karma. How could karma possibly be this thing that looms out there, that looms over you, if it obviously needs the real spiritual entity to give power to it, to believe that they didn't do what they needed to do in life to overcome the karma? Well, if it can be overcome in that way, then it's all dependent on the spiritual entity and what they think about it, what they believe about it. So it can't exist on its own. This whole reality where we are right now likely can't even exist without our brand of consciousness. If the reality where we are now can't exist without the spiritual being of who we are, the engine driving the reality in some way, that first rule, the Kabbalion, whatever that is, all is mind. I don't know what the Kabbalion is. I don't really care. I don't know why Hermes was thrice great, and I don't care if his ex-girlfriend said the same about him. I don't care. It's accurate either way. All is mind. No Big Bang came first. That's ridiculous. Of course, all is mind. People go, Matt, the Kabbalion's this and that. I don't care what it is. The first rule and many of its rules is correct. All is mind. And then we have the as above, so below. Matt, that's correspondence. I don't care what it's called. That's all horse shit. All that, the general principles, also, it's not horse shit, the principles, okay? Getting into all the details. And I don't care where it came from. Again, I don't care if Hermes is Trismegistus or he's Pootie Tang. I don't care. If the principle resonates with me, I'll say, yeah, that's generally how this reality works, then I'll notice it and carry it with me. The principle. Fine. So the as above, so below, that does get into what we're talking about here. The little pathetic creatures like Melvin. Picture Melvin delivering milk with his tricycle to get another laugh. At that level of entity, we see through every one of its tricks, every single one. So as above, so below, as below, so below, blah, 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 in, out, blah, blah, all that bull crap. You have to say it like you really know what you're talking about. As within, so without, man. Shut up. Who cares? As long as you understand the basic principle. So these archonic beings are so skilled, and they're so. First off, I do believe if you spend your life expecting to beat a trick, you're giving tremendous power to it. Well, Matt, you're talking about it. Well, yeah, it's like the way people give me shit. How am I going to talk about not milk or whatever without talking about it? We can we can understand we're in control, we have the power, and then over the next decade, you're going to just focus on that. You're really worried about a trick when we've come to the conclusion that, we're responsible for everything. Wayne's diagram, nothing here can really happen without us. All of this for us. So if you believe in a soul trap or whatever, if you believe, not the soul trap, if you can have those beliefs kind of wash away. Like somebody that had a belief that karma loomed over them over time. This is all bullshit. It doesn't exist without me. So to talk about it is good. Initially, when we're talking about it, we may give it a little bit of life. Then with the right mindset and belief that we're in control of everything, it just goes away. It has no power. If Melvin runs around here delivering milk, I don't think his equivalent in the green room moving into the moment of death is going to be a different type of thing. It's all part of the same pathetic trick to me. And that brings us to the second part of this big topic that I'm really super sick of. Go into the light or don't go into the light. Carol Ann, go into the light. Like our whole existence comes down to one moment. Go into the light or not go into the light. So let me get this straight. You and your Jimmy, you ride up, no appointment, no nothing. You come up here, all the work we've done in terms of seeing through the trick in this reality. Everything we've done for ourselves. Part 2, the work, the worry about yourself activities, becoming better, changing our frequency, our resonance, our inner knowing exercises, our inner tuning fork exercises, beating the trick. At every turn down here, forget all that. Didn't matter. All that work, all that training for the Olympics, it doesn't matter. It'll just come down to a few moments if you go into the light or not. Really? Well, see, here's the thing. Michael and others may be screaming at me. That exists, Matt. It may exist, but it's not going to be an issue for us. We've beaten the trick everywhere. Some light might pop up. Fine. Well, Matt, it feels real good, and your pet Belle will be in there. Okay. But I'll be able. It doesn't mean I'm not going to just pull out a handwritten note in a 3x5 card and say the smart truthers tell me not to go in. I'll be able to determine on my own what's legitimate or not. Why am I doing all the work here to put myself in a certain frequency and vibration and resonance? I don't just need to pull up. What did the other truthers tell me? Don't go into light, son of a bitch. I don't know what this means. I got like another mind wipe, but I'm dead. I pull out my 3x5 card, which I was allowed to take with me. I said, don't go into light, son of a bitch. And I think I'll determine it on my own. I think I'll be big enough. That's why I'm doing the work here. Don't need some directive. And if the light's legitimate, I'll be able to determine that as well. We're dead, right? So what's the rush? Does the light pop up and start playing the music from Final Jeopardy? Do, 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 do. You got to bet your answer. You better put your answer in before dun, 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 boom. Boom. Is that what it's going to do? It's going to play? And then my cat Belle will be talking to me and my family will be in this light and it'll all be a false light and say, you better get your ass in here by the end of the Final Jeopardy music. We'll close this son of a bitch off. You'll be stuck forever. I mean, the basis of what we've done over the past 10 years is to beat the trick. Now, that's not all of it. We have to work on ourselves. Our frequency, vibration. Part 2, worry about yourself activities. Part 2, the work. It wants you to constantly jump back into the bog and continue to analyze its trick. We hopefully are leaving that behind. We've beaten it. All right. So, I mean, we don't, if it's going to put pressure on you, or it's going to say, if you don't get in here by the end of the Final Jeopardy music, I mean, we shouldn't even have even needed to do the work. There's no wonderful light or some beautiful thing that would put pressure on you, or you could say, wait a second, man, I just came from a place that executed a trick for how long? For about 40,000 years. So I'm a little skeptical. Like, did you see Good Will Hunting? You say this right into light. Did you see Good Will Hunting? Well, I'm Ben Affleck. Retain or no? You're suspect, light. So what are they going to do? Well, I've never had anybody be suspect of me. I'm going to leave your ass here like the, what is it, the Har Hooves or whatever in Rings of Power. They left the dead to die on the trail in Rings of Power or something. If it's putting pressure on you or it's playing the Final Jeopardy music, there's going to be ways to tell, because my belief is the trick is all part of, if there is a trick, it would be all part of the same thing. It would be in some way related to Melvin delivering his milk on his tricycle. It would be all related. Or do you think that's completely on its own? One trick in no way is part of the other. If it's related, then I've trained to see through it. It's that simple. Okay, where does that leave us regarding the potential for a soul trap or go into the light, not go into the light, whatever? Where does that leave us? Number one, we can't just pretend we never heard about this topic. The concept of, Matt, what you expect to get at death is what you get. There is something to that. Tony presented that, and others. We'll talk about that some other time. I don't think we're going to get into that here, but it's relevant now. In a way, okay, what you expect to get at death is what you get. So you've been focusing on a soul trap, you're going to get some sort of soul trap, or you're going to get some sort of trick, or you're going to help conjure your own some sort of archonic being. There's something to that. What you expect is what you get. Okay, but it is what it is at this point. All of us listening, we can't pretend we never heard of the topic a soul trap. Can't pretend, what's that? I'm going to convince myself I never heard of it. No, it's okay. We don't have to pretend it doesn't exist or the light, don't go in the light. We've heard it. We can't fake it to make it. Can't pretend it doesn't exist. Okay, based on everything we've talked about thus far, in terms of this issue, a potential soul trap or go in the light or not, there's a fork in the road for, I was going to say for us, but it just popped in my, for some of us. If the Christians that are here, I don't see how any of this would apply to your belief set. Jesus will take you where you need to be. It should be that simple for you. Many of us don't have that belief set. Many of us have watched many videos about going to the light or not and about potential traps and tricks. So there's a fork in the road for some of us in terms of how we will live the rest of our lives. One strategy, in my opinion, is a very winning strategy. Another is a very damning or dooming strategy in terms of how we deal with this issue. Okay, let's start by presenting the worst thing you can do, taking the wrong fork in the road, which to me is completely exemplified by the Tibetan Book of the Dead. You read this nonsense, this Tibetan Book of the Dead, 40 days or whatever. At this stage, a certain color light will pop up. And this is what you do. And turn left at the red light, spin around 3 times when the green light pops up. When these demons pop up at this level, they'll be demons of your own making. Take the change from your right pocket per tin cup and put it in your left pocket so you don't shank the ball. Spin around 3 times, do the hokey pokey. Then these lights, it's like that scene where the Romulans were interrogating Picard. There are 4 lights. All these, here's what to do. See, this is so disempowering. It says to you, you need a map. You need our little formula. It's not up to you, the Tibetan Book of the Dead says. You need to memorize this horse shit. Or actually, the shamans or whatever say it over the dead body. They're like screaming over the dead body. Look out for the blue light! Don't fall for that bullshit. They actually talk over the body. Why didn't the guy prepare for the lights when he was alive? How's talking over the body going to help? That's ridiculous. But it's a map, see? A map is disempowering. Any sort of formula. Oh, here's how you beat the archons in taking others' advice. That's disempowering and in the extreme. That's horseshit. So your inner knowing probably tells you, as it tells me, that following a specific formula is what not to do. Something like the Tibetan Book of the Dead presenting what to do at each stage or step of the bardos is the last thing you should do. Why? Because again, it's the same principles and rules of this reality time after time. It's outside yourself. It has nothing to do with yourself. It's coming from others. It's coming from an expert. So a formula, what to do at this stage, it doesn't work. Getting advice from others that have met the archons and what did you say to them where you thought you could beat them, and getting advice. No, it's the opposite of what we should be doing. What we should be doing is crystal clear. Let me present a bad example, but I have to make sure this comes out clear. It's too important. Not that I have all the answers, but I feel very strongly about this. Again, grant me some liberties with this example. The specifics on Bruce Lee don't matter if you've researched. Okay, just please grant me some liberties if anything's wrong here. Okay, at one point, Bruce Lee was probably the baddest ass in terms of ass kicker in the world at one point. So let's just say he had a match coming up or a tournament, or well, okay, please just grant me liberties. You know, he said, Bruce, how are you going to prepare for your next opponent? I don't care who my next opponent is. I know I'm the baddest of the bad. I know I've prepared better than anyone else. I know I'm faster than everyone else. I know I've put in the time and the work. I don't care who my next opponent is. I don't care to study his tape to see his weaknesses. I'm completely confident in myself. That's what to take into the moment of death. The Tesla truth drop. Into the moment of death, you take a frequency, resonance, and vibration that says you've done all that you can do. You have no regrets. This thing called karma is a joke. It doesn't exist. Nothing here exists without you. You've seen through every single trick. You've announced to the spiritual part of you that's not here, or whatever, announced to the universe, whatever your belief is, your religion, you've announced whether you want to do this again or not. And you're going to get your way. Why? Because you said so. You don't care what potential tricks could come or light trick, because you've done the work here. You've done the Rocky training for 20, 30, 40 years. You are just like the wallet said in Pulp Fiction for Jules, is, how do I know it's your wallet? It's the one that says bad motherfucker. Because from a spiritual perspective, you've done the part two, the work. You've done all the worry about yourself activities. You haven't been tricked for decades. You're a bad spiritual mother effer. Don't care about trying to study up on what to do with any lights or any tricks. Even just somebody in the truth community saying, never go into the light. That's a formula. I'm sorry. You don't know for sure 100%. It's a formula. If you've gotten yourself into the state of a spiritual bad effer, frequency, resonance, vibration, knowing that all the work that you've put in this life has paid off, then nothing's going to be able to fool you. That's the confidence. Because guess what? The whole reality here is derived from us. So everything going into the moment of death, you don't think that's going to be derived from us. The archonic being in some way takes its power from us. If you cry out on your deathbed, Johnny, little cousin Johnny, get back in here, read me page 20 to 25 of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, then play me these YouTube videos that talk about how to beat the archons, it's begging for an answer outside yourself. When everything depends on us, everything stems from us. Here's an inner knowing exercise we can perform right now related to this topic. The old phrase that I stole from the trans-surfing people and their talk on pendulums and all that interesting stuff. I don't think I'll ever go back to it, but when I dove into it several years ago, it was very interesting, and there were some takeaways that I incorporated into my personal belief set. But they said, never claimed this was my own, they said, where attention goes, energy flows. Now, is there anybody listening to me that doesn't believe that? Where attention goes, some form of energy or power flows. Everybody listening to me believes that. And where is that energy coming from? From you, of course, from your spiritual nature. Again, everybody believes that. So what's happening if you spend years preparing for an archonic trick at death, or watching hundreds of YouTube videos that in some way talk about an archonic trick at death, or David Icke's Saturn Moon Matrix, or Recycling Trap? Where's all that energy going if you're watching hundreds of YouTube videos because you're a powerful spiritual energy producer, and where attention goes, energy flows? Whether that archonic being exists on its own, is derived from you. Let's just say it exists on its own in this example. Do you think it would want you focusing on its trick? Or do you think it would want you saying, I don't care what's coming because I'm so powerful and I resonate at such a frequency, I'll just see right through everything and nothing has power over me? Do you think it wants that mindset? Or do you think it wants somebody continuously focusing on it, where attention goes, energy flows? Of course, it's so, this isn't even worth talking about. If you put that much effort into it, you're actually feeding it. There is no doubt about it. Let's go back to as above, so below. Wherever they came from, these are also stuffed Lenins or Humpty Dumptys. They exist for a reason. It's the bedrock of how this whole reality system works. I call the spiritual adversary not milk because I want it to be intentionally vague. I don't want anybody pointing at specific bad guys. If you're pointing at a specific bad guy, and my secret society over here, Freemasons, it's the Jays. If you're pointing at a bad guy, you're falling for its trick. That's 100%. In general, it has many moving parts. It has many bad guys. It has many systems. It has many components of its engine, all working together to be the spiritual adversary of people like you and me in this reality system. It's called not milk. I want it to be vague. You can't point at a specific. Now, what does it do? What does this thing do, Clarice, this man you seek? In general, as a whole, what does the spiritual adversary do? What is maybe the most important thing it tries to achieve for itself in terms of playing its role? It disempowers. It does it 24/7, 365, like the Terminator. It tries to work over every single real being that's here, like you and me, to weaken or disempower. Therefore, the rules here, how to play this game, is very simple. You need to do everything that empowers yourself. The entire life goal, if you had one sentence, it's probably would be pretty spot on to say, if you had one sentence to say, the goal of life is to, through this very difficult experience, to self-empower. That might be it. I mean, that might be more important than anything. Why? Because it works to do the opposite. You know what to do for yourself if you're not sure by looking at what it's trying to do to you. It tries to work you over and disempower you. Learned helplessness, learned hopelessness, demoralization, everything we've been talking about. Therefore, let's go back to the topic at hand here, the moment of death. Archonic beings playing tricks. Oh, that'll get you back into a body or light or no light. So back to the fork in the road, what to do? Is the need to follow a formula or a map like the Tibetan Book of the Dead? On day 6, this ugly fucking magenta light will pop up and this is what you do. The need to follow a map, is that disempowering or is that empowering? I mean, let's just obviously know the answer, but let's just play this out. Is that saying you have the confidence and you exude the frequency to overcome it yourself, or you need the little Tibetan map? You need the little frozen scrolls that were thrown down from the top of Mount Everest. It's very disempowering, as is studying what the archons are doing and the NDEs, and somebody's NDE might not be your experience. What do we do? What do we say? How do we beat the trick? Oh, let me learn from the experts. That's incredibly disempowering. Back to Bruce Lee. Aren't you going to study your opponent? No. Why? Because I've done enough and nobody can beat me. And I'm completely confident. Full empowerment. You don't need specifics. You don't need a map or what to do if this light pops up or if this archonic being. If you have full confidence, you exude it. Probably anything that would try to play a trick, the seas would part. Like the Red Sea. Moses and the Hebrews, they're not going to mess with you if you have the right frequency. You don't need specifics. Okay, I guess I'm being repetitive, but I feel strongly about this. And again, I'm sure most of this is resonating with your inner knowing. Get back into those videos. Is that empowering? Or you say, now I'm really in the middle of part 2 of the work, the worry about yourself activities. I have a lot more to do in life. I have a lot more petty things to overcome. But going into the moment of death, I don't care about any potential tricks or traps. I'm not even going to focus on it for the rest of my life. I'm not going to forget all the videos I've watched. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't exist. But I don't care because I'm working myself up into using this hardcore Rocky training experience to be unbeatable. By the way, I mean, there's a reason for these Rocky movies. This incredible truth drop. It's about far more than boxing. Sylvester Stallone might have actually written it. Who knows? The spiritual message, it is an absolute Humpty Dumpty to a degree, or stuffed Lenin, or what Vanessa VA called the retrocausality language. Whether Sylvester Stallone was responsible for writing it or not, it's a huge spiritual message and a metaphor as to this reality and self-confidence and overcoming. What is he? He just wants to go the distance. Doesn't even care about the winning or the prize money. He wants to do it for himself. Rocky 3 is the same thing. AJ, I'm afraid. It's okay to be afraid. I'm afraid. It's the whole overcoming the fear, overcoming the human limitations. Gigantic truth drops in Rocky 3, what Clubber Lang represents. He didn't fight Clubber Lang the second time for any reason other than because he had to do it. He had to put himself in a certain state to overcome the fear. Where it's a movie about boxing. They have to show training, right? It's all physical to the popcorn crunchers, but it's not physical. It's watch Rocky 1, 2, and 3. It's putting yourself in that state where he can't be beaten. He doesn't even care about the opponent. And of course it's a movie. It has to be about the physical. It's not about the physical. So there could be a trick, potentially a death. By my heel, I care not. Next week, or somebody's going to die in a week or a month. Aren't you going to prepare for tricks? No, because I've done all the work here, and my frequency is such that nothing can touch me. One of the most important things we can do in life, one of the major parts of part 2, the work, is to weigh everything regarding or through the lens of self-empowering. It's going to help me, or is it disempowering, this action or whatever? Maybe not everything should be put under that lens. Like if you go get a hot dog at a food truck or something, that's not going to be either one. But any big decision, a way of dealing with your boss or whatever, is this self-empowering what I'm doing or disempowering? If I need a map or a Tibetan Book of the Dead to escape the Bardos, that's as disempowering as it possibly gets in this entire reality. Looking around, remember these? This name just popped up into my head, and maybe the guy was trying to help. I don't want to pick on anybody, but I need to get the point across here. Is he still around? Was there Wes? His name was Wes Penray videos or something. People sending me these Wes Penray. Here's how you crawl around in the dark to get through the grid to escape the grid. I'm sorry. I'll take my chances that I'm here to work on myself. Worry about yourself. I'm here to get myself in a hardcore pipe-hitting frequency. I don't, in terms of trying to study how to crawl around the grid in the dark, and I need to look to others to help. I need help to get out. Help me get out, please. YouTube videos, help me get out. I'm not fine. You want to do that? Go ahead. It doesn't resonate with me and how I can see what this entire reality is up to. It's completely at every turn about disempowerment. What could be more disempowering than try to figure out how to crawl around the grid in the dark to get out at the moment of death? I'll take my chances that that's not what needs to be done. That we're here to do it for ourselves. And when we achieve that level, like a Rocky 3 and what that was presenting, nothing can touch us. You want to go watch your videos about crawling around and finding the way out of the grid in the dark? Be my guest. And this leads us, of course, to the discussion on religion. Can't just pretend this doesn't exist. There's 15% of this channel, 15 to 20% associate with a religion. 12 to 15%. I haven't done analytics, but I've been watching your comments and interacting with people for almost 15 years. I'd say 12 to 15% are Christian here. If they're still with this video, I don't know, they may find it interesting, but none of this video would, I think, resonate with them. It's completely the antithesis of what they believe in. But I can't just put my head in the sand and I don't want to piss off subscribers, so I can't talk about it. I have to address it. I won't just harp on it. But all religions to me are very disempowering. If I'm missing something, I'll look to your comments. It says you certainly can't do it on your own. You need this God or you need this religion. And not only can't do it on your own, you're nothing without it. There could be a punishment per many people's beliefs, that a very hard punishment if you don't choose right. I mean, it's the definition of disempowerment. I'm not trying to pick a fight with anybody or piss anybody off. It's just you can't do it on your own. I believe we can do it on our own, and it's very disempowering, to say, why is the not milk? If you just pick the right God and you get out, then what is the not milk doing all this for? What's the spiritual adversary doing? And if it's not playing its trick on devout Christians, it's playing its tricks every day with politics, its presentation of what government is, its false stories. It's playing its trick on everybody. if Christians have a very guaranteed way out and a win, what's the not maybe what's the not doing all this for? What would be the point, say, of disempowering or working hard to disempower millions and millions of Christians when, say, those Christians in this example hold a very strong belief that Jesus will be their way out? Okay, so what would be the point of trying to work them over in all the other areas if they are going to hold on to that? I guess some people would say it's about the energy harvesting and the loosh. I mean, a devout Christian can still fall for hundreds or thousands of aspects of the general trick, can go out and vote, can be patriotic when they hear stories about a buzzed cauldron landing and all that. The Christians are fooled in the areas that everybody else is. If it's, somebody might say in the comments, Matt, it's just about the trick for them is just about the energy harvesting and the loosh. But if they believe in the Christian God and Jesus, the not can't stop them from where they're going, what you would be called heaven or something. Okay, maybe that's what they would say to me. It's still, let's not harp on this and go too long on this. I don't think you'll ever see my opinion if there's a Christian listening to this, and there are, and I don't think I'll see your opinion. To me, it's at the very base level. You can't do it on your own. I mean, I don't see how that can be argued. That's disempowering to me. As I said earlier, if there was one sentence I had to write, and it couldn't be a run-on sentence with endless semicolons and commas about what this entire reality, incarnation, life is all about, to be as self-empowered as possible would be the main focus of that sentence. And even if you weren't even aware of the adversary here, you'd be beating it back every time if you focused on self-empowerment. So I have to apply everything to that one sentence that, to me, may be the most important sentence. So I apply religion to it, and you know what happens when I do that. What happened to Rocky in the beginning of Rocky 3? He lost badly to Clubber Lang. To truly be self-empowered, you do have to be beaten down to a degree. There has to be a struggle of some kind to be overcome. If you're born perfect health, full knowledge of your spiritual self, no worries about anything, your parents were rich, so no worries that no bill will never come due, that can't be paid. If there's no struggle, there's no self-empowerment. There can be a false confidence because you're a rich person, you come from a rich family. But that's false. That's not true. Rocky needed to get beaten down. I mean, that's the only way to create or to get to the state he needed to be. This has to be difficult to a large degree. You have to be beaten up to eventually walk through that door of self-empowerment. That's why it's hard here. Can't be all roses and easy. Almost everybody out there listening to me now believes that we existed in some spiritual form before birth or before incarnation. So what is this place for? I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but there's only a limited number of possibilities as to what this place is for. I mean, again, it's incredible. I don't know how many in our general truth community will yell hijacked. I'm not going to do it. I don't think many people here believe that, but what we believe here is a little bit different, of course, than what the general truth community believes. I think most out there, our brethren would still scream hijacked. I just don't get that. But again, you have to present that as a possibility. There's a limited number of possibilities. It was supposed to be Star Trek's Risa, pleasure planet, with unlimited and endless lube for free, and bad guys came in. But see, the godlike being or the incredible power that created the reality is somehow powerless to stop the hijack. Powerless to stop the bad guys who present themselves like idiots, like Melvin and his tricycle. Wouldn't the godlike being that created the reality be able to stop the hijack from lesser beings? It doesn't. It's like saying a motorcycle gang of 10 guys took over the NYPD. Maybe not the greatest example, but wouldn't they be able to stop the 10 guys with their 22 pistols and rifles, and wouldn't they be able to stop it as a more powerful, you could say, organization? It doesn't make any sense. So that doesn't really line up with common sense. Therefore, what's left? Nothing but this. It was meant to be very difficult and hardcore. It was meant to have a really aggressive, nasty Sometimes it's not its minions. Its minions are clowns, but in terms of at the certain levels of the screen, it can be evil genius. It moved everybody into a face covering in 6 to 8 weeks. It can be evil genius in terms of how it gets everybody firmly fixed in the middle of the ship of fools and believing in all of its presentations and believing this is what they're supposed to do with their lives. And that degree and how it sways the masses to do exactly what it wants and provide the energy that it needs as a whole, at least, it is evil genius. So it's a learning experience. Oh, trigger alert, trigger alert. A school, trigger alert, or a learning experience, or we agreed to be here to overcome. It has to be hard to overcome. There needs to be a bad guy to overcome. To me it's exactly what it's supposed to be. And I do lean on the no consequences people's side, that no matter how bad it gets with AI and things, that it can never truly win the bad guy, never truly Horcrux off our soul into Ravenclaw's lost item, or never truly defeat us. I don't think we would have ever agreed to come here if the stakes were the stakes were truly the abyss or oblivion for us. So I do err on the side or lean on the side of the no consequences people. I don't have that complete, we don't see eye to eye on many things. I do think, there are, quote, consequences by definition by wasting your life here. But all the evidence lines up that we agreed in some way to be here, and it's supposed to be hard. So here's my summary for this important topic. If it had us so securely at the moment of death, and its tricks were so great, I don't think it would be working us over so aggressively in life. I don't think it would be focusing on us so intently during our lives if it had us at death. It's very similar to the as above, so below. Therefore, from our perspective, if we've beaten the trick here, I think we'll beat it there or anywhere. I don't think it's a real stretch to come to that conclusion. Point 2, the entity that's the focus of the trick is always more powerful than the trickster. We're obviously the focus of the trick. Therefore, by definition, the trickster can't do it himself, for lack of better words, or whatever's related to the trickster. Karma can't do it itself, can't exist on its own. Can archonic beings that play tricks at death do it on their own, or do they need the full belief in the focus of the trick that these things are coming? And it's hard to get out of here, that they need a population believing it's a prison planet. And it's hard to get out. And we're Saturn Moon Matrix trapped. Everybody can see that our type of consciousness fully believing in that probably builds the walls, provides power to it. So does it exist on its own or not? If it can't fully exist on its own, then we come right back to the best news of all time, as usual, that we're responsible for everything, and ultimately what we truly believe and what we say goes. It's that simple. And the final thing we discussed is, for everything important that comes in life, do we take the approach or do we take it on in a way that ultimately leads to self-empowerment and making that frequency and vibration a little bit stronger? Or are we taking it on in a way that leads to disempowerment? Well, back to what we're talking about, potential tricks at death, right? Go into the light or not. If you need a map of some kind, like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, I know I said this before, it's too important. I'll repeat it one last time for the summary. If you need a map as to what to do at each stage, something that comes from out there, potentially the screen, is that empowering or disempowering? You need help. You need a map, you poor devil. You need, of course, we know, but let's just play this out. It's disempowering. If you need, here's videos, Matt, here's videos that tell you how to crawl around in the dark and get through the grid. That's about as disempowering as it gets. Matt, here's videos that tell you if the archonic being says this, here's what you say back. That's disempowering. Everything through that lens. What's empowering is to know the confidence, done enough. My frequency vibration is such that nothing can touch me. I don't care what tricks may come at the moment of death or a trillion years from now, because I've become an expert here in this hardcore pipe-hitting training ground. Rockies play the music now. I've become an expert at seeing through tricks. You're going to incarnate in this place called Earth. And whatever your belief set is, whether it be one lifetime or 1,000 go-arounds or simultaneous incarnations, the way Tony described it, when we're done with it all, somebody might have said, you will become a being that will never be tricked again, trillions of years into the future. What you learned here about overcoming the trick, you will carry with you forever. Now, per what I've talked about a lot recently, just being able to see through the trick, I don't believe is good enough. At one point, 5, 6, or 7 years, I thought that was good enough. Like a dummy, I declare, we won because we see through the trick. And then I thought, wait a second, there's a whole nother side to this, part 2, the work, the worry about yourself activities, things we need to do here to improve ourselves, take advantage of all the bullshit this reality throws at us. I do believe that second part that comes after seeing through the trick is just as important or more important. I don't think it's good enough to say we win just because we see through the trick. That doesn't mean that the training here of seeing through the trick is not incredibly important. That doesn't mean it's not one of the main reasons we came here, to see if we could beat it, to see if we could overcome it. And one of the reasons we know it's not enough to stop there is because this not milk or this conspiracy generation machine keeps generating endless topics to keep us involved with the trick. But then again, one could say that if you're trying to analyze what happened to the side of the Pentagon, you haven't seen through really the trick at all. You're still, to a degree, falling for the trick. The individual conspiracies at that in the weeds level is the trick itself. Even though some might say this government is lying about this or that, that level of in the weeds investigation is actually, we need to differentiate, is falling for the trick. Even though that person that's investigating what happened to the side of the Pentagon wouldn't see the world the way your friends and family do, just believing BBC and believing CNN, they still see that there are lies coming out, but they're still falling for the trick. Overcoming the trick at the highest level is seeing that it's all a trick, and all of it is meant to pull you back and keep you from something. I mean, that's the really key to leaving it all behind and doing what you need to do for yourself. So we have to differentiate there. I mean, I appreciate the first grade truther that doesn't believe what CBS News said about what happened on the big day in 2001, and they see that there's some lies taking place. But that's the first step. That is not overcoming the trick. To do the continual and endless research and to participate with the yellow breadcrumbs that it throws at us is the trick itself. It's just another form of the trick. It's just a breadcrumb flavored with a little bit different flavor of yellow. And once again, this conversation brings us to end full circle back at the end of The Wizard of Oz once again. I know I've been talking about it a lot recently. It's the biggest truth drop of all time. Dorothy didn't need no ghetto pumps. It was always within Dorothy to go home whenever she wanted. Remember my bad example about the demon laughing and the person's all beaten up and they're at the end of their whatever spiritual tether, and the demon says, I would like to share something with you. It was always within you. You could have gotten out. You could have done whatever you wanted. Everything's derived from you. We fooled you. You didn't believe. You never even for a second went there. You never even considered you had that power or that say so. I know, again, that's that old example that I don't like that I presented, but it's similar to the end of The Wizard of Oz with the ghetto pumps. And it wasn't Glenda, it wasn't anybody. It was always within Dorothy. And you have to just, how much time you have left, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, pretty simple. Part 1, the trick. We see through it. Do you think you'll be prepared to see through any possible trick that might ever come for the next trillion years based on all the bullshit we've been through? We might have a little more work to do there. I don't know what's going to come at us over the next trillion years, but this has been a hardcore training ground. What we've learned here in terms of seeing through all the bullshit will carry through for a trillion years or a long time or forever. Okay, so that part 1 is done. Okay, part 2, okay. Personal work we need to do. We've talked about petty things we need to overcome, the rooster. Okay, that's not really what we're talking about here. Here we're talking about moving into a confidence a confidence which will vibrate into the moment of death. A confidence, if you want to be done with it, then you're done with it. No doubt that you didn't do all that you needed to do here. And that doesn't mean we need to be perfect. It's who's the gauge of that confidence? You are. The metrics are set by you. Whether you're confident going into the moment of death is up to you. There's no metric, there's no standard, there's no scorecard. It's completely up to you if you want to be done with this. And if you take that, again, you take that sort of power into the moment of death, that sort of frequency and confidence, don't need no map, don't need no Tibetan Book of the Dead horse shit. Thanks for listening.